Hello, welcome back guys on my channel. How are you guys are doing? I hope that you guys are doing fine. If you are having a bad day right now, don't be worried, everything is going to be okay. You have to fight it back till the end to see how it ends. Anyway, if you are really one of these guys who really wanted to start the Wuthering in 2026, I guess this video is going to be really helpful for you, because in this video I'm going to talk about the good aspect and also bad aspect of this game. And also, if you are following the gacha community for a long time and also have following the big CCs who represent this gacha community, then you might have heard about this game from their mouth, and most of the time their opinion about this game is a positive way, and most of the time you barely heard any negative from it. They are just exaggerating a little bit, and I'm no one to judge their opinion. Everyone can have their own opinion, which is called the freedom of speech. So as myself, who is a day one player from the Wuthering, and also you can even consider me as a casual, or you can consider as a tourist player, I'm going to share my opinion and also have my own take about this good aspect and also bad aspect of this game. Let's start. So let's talk about the first good aspect of this Wuthering. First of all, it is an open world game, and being an open world game, it has a good combat system. Yes, the combat system which praised by the community of gacha game most of the time when they talk about the Wuthering. Now this combat system is very much of a flashy, and it is totally unparalleled to any other gacha games which ever exist to this current leader in this space right now. If I compare it to Genshin Impact, nope, the Genshin Impact combat does not even come close to Wuthering, and Wuthering combat is totally like a Leviathan level. That's how much of a good it is. But a one game which can be considered as a close to Wuthering, which is the Zen Legend Zero. But if Zen Legend Zero is somehow is an open world game just like the Wuthering, then it would be a very much of a hard decision to see that which game is going to be very much of a good one. Why am I saying this? The Zen Legend Zero cannot even compare to Wuthering, because Zen Legend Zero is a semi-open world game, and the combat system that you are going to put into this game is very much of a restricted one. How? Because when it comes to parry a certain enemy's attack, you have to quick swap in your character to do a parry, which is totally restricted in Zen Legend Zero. But when it comes to the Wuthering, you don't have to do that. You can even do a parry with your on-field character, and also the same mechanism which is Zen Legend Zero applying the swapping to do a parry. This kind of mechanics also happening in Wuthering. And also you can even do a jump attack, and also during the jump or mid-bound you can even switch the character in Wuthering, but you cannot even do that in Zen Legend Zero. Heck, Zen Legend Zero cannot even do a jump, which is considered as a semi-open world game. So that's how much of a good of the Wuthering, and also Wuthering combat is very much of a flashy, fluent, and also feeling good and also feeling rewarding. That's how much of a good it is. I cannot even express unless you try it yourself. So that's all for this combat part. Let's talk about the another part, which is the exploration. Yes, unlike Genshin Impact, Wuthering exploration very much fast and very much of your worth your time, but it does not even have a good or great puzzle just like the Genshin Impact. But when it comes to taking your time and also getting your rewards from this open world, I guess Wuthering has always come to the top, and also adding the mostly new things for your each region. If I just give you an example of the Rinasita and also Laharoi. Laharoi is a recent region. Their previous region is the Rinasita, where they just added a flying winder, or you can say the glider, and that glider does not need to have to be activated to jump from the cliff, then the glider will activate. That kind of mechanism just does not need to be applied when you're just using the glider. All you have to do a quick double jump and apply it to the glider, and you can even get from there to any kind of 10 or 12 store height of a building of a mountain. That much of a how much of a good it is, and the stamina is very much of a manageable, and you can even travel to any place to anywhere within a short period of time. But when it comes to the Laharohi, they also added a motorbike system where you can even travel to any place to anywhere, very much of a faster, and also do so many new cool things, customize your motorbike, any other things. But when it comes to the compared to Genshin Impact, they restricted this kind of exploration QQL updates towards their character. If I just give you a Nutland, which is the most exclusive or most controversial region to this game, where you have to have a Mavic to get this motorbike system. Other than that, you cannot even have this. That's how much of a predatory practice system they have been doing it. But Wuthering has just learned from not actually their mistake, from the other mistake, and apply it to their game, which in a better way. So that's all for the exploration part. Let's talk about the editing the skip part. Yes, this game can give you a freedom of options where you can also enjoy the combat and also other game and game mechanics, not even caring the story. That's also is a very much of a good option, unlike Genshin Impact, where they are forcing you to enjoy their story to play the game, and they did not even add the skip button after 5 years release of this game, which is a pretty much of a diabolical things to do because they already added a skip button into their recent games, which is the Zenless Ozura and also Honkai's Star Rail, and that skip button is totally, you can even consider it close to Wuthering. You can even skip anything when they just added to the HSR, and HSR story is pretty much of a bearable when they just added the skip button. That much of a how much of a good is happening when they just added the skip button. But when it comes to the Genshin Impact, they didn't even do that. But Wuthering can give you this kind of control or freedom of options where you can just only enjoy the game and combat while not even being cared by the story. So that's all for this skip button part. Let's talk about the another part, which is the QQL updates, or you can say the adding the gadgets to this game. Now, unlike Genshin Impact, Wuthering's gadget system can even obtain by just doing nothing into the game. When you're just going to start the game, you can even get those gadgets and use them without any kind of requirements. Meanwhile, Genshin even required to have those gadgets. I'm not talking about the recent one, I'm talking about the previous ones. In those previous ones, you have to do certain missions, and also you have to wait for like a 7 weeks or 4 weeks or more than 1 month to get those like a special gadgets, which is a very much of a frustration one, because if you are one of those like a hardcore player who really want to pour your time for your day one and also get those all the materials, you can even get that. But Wuthering US is giving you those options in a day one without having to worry or without even waiting to get those materials by waiting over like a 1 or 2 months. That's how much of a good it is. So that's all for this part. Let's talk about the another part, gacha system. Yes, gacha system is the heart of any other gacha game. That's why they are called as a gacha game. In this gacha system part, which is a totally very much different from the other Genshinfication system, where it is a hard PT is a 80 and also the weapon banner is a guaranteed one. Well, how it works? The 80 PT is a guaranteed character, and 65 PT starts from the soft PT, where the Genshin Impact is a start from the 75 PT. Now in here, why am I just comparing to everything is a Genshin Impact? Because most of the player, just like myself, who started this kind of games, or you can say the gacha games, by playing the Genshin Impact, if I just give them a relatable things and also compare to a relatable things which they already played before, I guess it will be very much of a interesting or very much of an understandable conversation between us. So I guess I'm just comparing between those two games. So the gacha system in Genshin Impact is a 91, but in this Wuthering it is a 80, and Genshin Impact start from the soft PT 75, and in the Wuthering the soft PT start from the 65. Genshin Impact does not even have the guaranteed one. Even still to this day, it is not even a guaranteed one. It does not even carry it over to the next one. But in here, Wuthering it is a totally guaranteed one. So if you just somehow get a character from your character banner, but the character banner is a totally 50-50 still, which is the same as the Genshin one, but the rate is also totally increased from like a 0.2% from the Genshin one, where Genshin is a 0.6%, but in Wuthering is 0.8% is the new version of it. Now, the weapon guarantee system is a pretty much of a good one, because if you just somehow get a character early one, then you can have a guaranteed weapon with the remaining pulls that you have left over on your account, which is also a massive good things. If you just like your character to have your signature weapon, you can even have options if your luck is on your side. So that's all for the gacha system. Let's talk about the another one, which is the developer listened. Yes, this is one of this game where the developer actually listened to this game, because when the game was released, it was a very much of a F launch. Most of the people cannot even play the game with their high-end PC, and the FPS and also overall so many bugs were happening back and forth, and the people who are thinking to play this game as a Genshin alternative, they think that I guess this game is going to be die and no one cannot even compete with Genshin anymore. But the developer totally fixed their issues and also give the player base a huge amount of rewards, which you can even consider as a bribe. But when they're just trying to do that, it is actually making the game better, and not actually giving them pulls is going to be help anything, but they're also improving the games bit by bit, and it is also very much of a visible in that time. And when it comes to developer listen in the Genshin Impact, they only listen to the CN community, unlike the global community. But the Wuthering guys, they always listen to the each and every community. If it is CN, they always listen. If it is global community, also Eastern player base, they always listen to them. And besides than that, they take very short times when it comes to fixing their games and also taking the notes from the player base. That's why I'm just telling you that they've listened. You already see the meme in the gacha space most of the time. So that's all for this good aspect of this game. Let's talk about the bad aspect of this game. Oof, this is going to be spicy one. The first one is a optimization issue. Yes, when it comes to the Hoyoverse games, they always optimize their game. Each and every game is very much optimized. If you have a 10 years or 12 years old PCs, or like a not even a flagship phone, you can even play those games. Yes, Genshin Impact was at first not even playable with your non-flagship device, but somehow after so many updates, this game is very much optimized game. But after like a 1.5 years later of this Wuthering S, the game is not even optimized for the mobile and also the PC, because the engine they used is Unreal Engine 4, and you already know that how much of a shitty engine it is. And they already did like a 1 or 2 beta testing before releasing it to the global release. And if I just compare it to the contender or also another gacha companies, they already did like at least 3 beta testing before global launching to take the player feedbacks from everyone to see that is the game is properly running on the other devices not. But when it comes to Wuthering Waves, they are just pouring so many animation, graphics, fidelity, increasing each and every patches. But when it comes to optimization, they just totally forget it. That's why this game is only for the rich peoples. When it comes to the mid people and also poor people, you cannot even afford to play this game. That's how much of a painful truth it is. So that's all for this bad part of this optimization. Now let's talk about the another bad aspect of this game, which is the lack of forester option, or you can consider it as a free-to-play options. Now they already added a new standard weaponaries in their Laharohi region, but it is not even going to be of a very much of a good one when it comes to the signature weapon, their particular characters. And also the forester weapons they already gave us, it is very much of a dog shit. And when it comes to the competitor of this game, which is the Genshin Impact and also their respective ways, however, and Zenless Zero, they always give us a free-to-play option, which can be considered as an alternative options to their respective character's signature weapon. But in Wuthering Waves, after the Zani release, or you can even consider the first anniversary, they just totally changed their whole roadmap, and they are making in a system where you have to have those characters' signature weapon to perform perfectly. If I just give you an example of a Frolova, where she required her signature weapon because her signature weapon is going to give you a special passive, which passive should be there on her kit instead of her weapon. But that weapon is her a unlockable resource where you have to waste your push to get the signature weapon and unlock her main passive, which should be there from the beginning of her character passive, which is a very much of a bad thing. And the way they are just portraying is that we are just giving you a guaranteed weapon, so why are you not pulling it? Isn't that it right? So that's why they are just giving it a much choiceable options when it comes to the weapon selectionary, and the options they are trying to give us, which is a standard one, it is very much of a low compared to the signature options which is providing to a respective characters. So that's why I'm just telling you, the way they are just handling it to the F2B players, it is not even a good way. And the standard weapon options from the signature weapon, if you just compare it, it is almost like a 20 to 30% difference, and the difference is not going to be like a very much of a bad case, because obviously the signature weapon is their perspective characters best slot option. But when it comes to the QQL updates that signature weapon is going to give that character, it feels like there's a totally new passive of that character, which should be there from the beginning of that character passive, not in a weapon passive. Okay, that's all for this lack of forester options. Let's talk about the another option, which is a toxic fanbase. Yes, every other gacha game does have that, but Wuthering Waves is not even a different matter. This game is also have a huge amount of toxic fanbase, just like the Genshin was in that Genshin era. And you already know that the toxic fanbase in this Wuthering Waves are totally come from the Genshin. And I have no opinion about them. The way they are just handling to this game, the way they cannot even take the criticism about this game, is totally remembering that how much of a Genshin situation was in that 2020 to 2023 or 2024 era. After the Wuthering Waves release, so many Genshin toxic players who really hate the Genshin from their core, they just move on to the Wuthering Waves and hating the Genshin back and forth. And when they were in the Genshin Impact, they didn't even let any other peoples to have the criticize their main game, which is the Genshin Impact. That's how it was working, and to this day. So if you really thinking that you can even handle those or avoid those toxic player base, I guess you can even try this game in no time. So I guess I already covered most of the part about this game. Okay, sorry, there's another part of it, which is the story. Yes, when I just going to compare with the Genshin Impact, the story Genshin Impact is a very much of a rich one and very much of a good one. Yes, so many people are going to be point out to me, hey man, Genshin Impact is a 6 years old game, but Wuthering Waves is only just going to land in 2 years, so how are you going to compare it? And Wuthering Waves story is very much of a better one. It is still growing better, and the recent story, which is the A-Month story, is totally blew up everyone's mind. Yes, I already know that, but if you are really of a story heavy, lore heavy gamer, then you cannot even sustain 1.0's total versions, which is a very much of a dog shit for any other gacha games to start. very boring, very unethnic. You can even know where the direction is going on. So that's why all I'm trying to say is that if you can endure the 1.0 version history, you can have a good like a result after the 2.0 version history, which is need to be happen faster, but they were just very much of a focused on fixing their game instead of focusing on the story. Well, I guess I already covered the most of the good part and also most of the bad part of this game. I already know that when you are going to hurt the bad part of this game, you might be hate me from the core of their heart, because the Wuthering player cannot even take the criticism, just like when they were in the Genshin. Well, I'm not going to mind any of you. You can even have your own opinion. Well, that's what we call the freedom of speech or freedom of opinions. So I guess that's all for this video. If you have any kind of opinion regarding this video topic, you can even just drop a comment about it. And also if you ever like it, leave a like. See you on the next video. Peace.